there, Diana from Adirondack Girl at Heart. I teach vintage and antique lovers how to create successful antique businesses that they love. One of the ways I do that is through these videos. Another way is through my website, adirondackgirlatheart.com. I hope you'll pop on over for a visit. It's filled with all kinds of articles about vintage and antiques and about vintage DIY projects. Today I'm sharing finds that I made over the weekend, just this past weekend. My sweet husband and I had a little romantic weekend in Manchester, Vermont, a really beautiful little town in sort of central western Vermont. And there's an inn there, the Inn at Manchester, that we love to stay at. So we were there, like I said, for a couple days. Hit a couple thrift stores and one antique mall. So I'm going to share the things that I found. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you 3 things that I sold yesterday on Etsy, just to give you an idea of the things that are selling for me right now. Okay, so the first thrift store we went to, I got to check the name, was it's a hospice thrift store in Manchester, right on Main Street. And it's super cute. It's kind of boutique-y. I didn't find a ton, but they had a selection of antique books that were $1 each. And so I bought 6 of them. So the first 3, they're all histories. So these 3, I thought I might sell as a bundle. I might remove the spine on that one because the back has already come off. And then they would all have that sort of very antique look that some people like to decorate with. So this first one, great cover, is The History of the English People, published in 1882. Just so fascinated by these old books. See, it's really in bad shape. Worth more than $1. I think I'd sell the 3 together for something like $18 or $22. The second one is The History of Rome, and it was published in 1865. It's just amazing to think I'm holding something from 1865, which was right around, I think, the end of the Civil War. And then the last one is English and American Literature, and it was published in 1886. And it's just filled with all kinds of names you recognize. Chaucer and Shakespeare, and some of the American ones are Nathaniel Hawthorne and Emerson. So I actually got into reading these over the weekend. Really fascinating. And, excuse me, the 3-book set is a history of 19th century year by year. So it's interesting. It's sort of a Western civilization, not too much about Asia or Russia or anything like that. Again, very interesting. This was published in 1901, and great color cover, right? Great to decorate with, that really nice red. I'm hoping something like $50 may sell better on Etsy than my antique booth. So we'll have to check and see how that does. So that was it for that thrift store. On the way home, we drove through Bennington and went to the Goodwill there. So these next few things are from the Goodwill. I've mentioned in the past that I'm starting to make candles in vintagey things. So these teacups were $1.29, and I just thought they had a great vintagey, antique-y look. And so filled with a candle, $12 to $15. Soy, probably no scent is the direction that I'm going. And then really cool cobalt. So this is John Wyeth and Brothers. So they're sort of like the Johnson & Johnson of the 1800s. And I have this in, I think I have this in amber, and it was just $1.99 at that Salvation Army. And I am planning an article about quack remedies And so I'm collecting all sort of medical bottles like that. I think this goes for about $20 on eBay. I haven't checked that out recently. Also from Salvation Army, beautiful pressed glass, small pitcher. I don't know if you'd call it a milk pitcher, but the design is something thistles, right? Look at that beautiful Scottish flower. It was $6.99, which I don't typically want to pay for pressed glass because it's not selling right now. Anybody out there find differently? Is it selling on Etsy? I haven't checked. But for $7, I just thought it was really beautiful. And I've been picking up pressed glass when I find it for reasonable prices because I'm going to write an article about them. Which I forgot to mention, I do have an article all about books. It's called Selling Old Books, 10 Categories That Sell the Best, something like that. So reference books are one of the categories that sell best. And I'll link to that down below, as well as a web article about cleaning and caring for old books. Okay, so we're still on Salvation Army. This was just such an amazing find. This was $7.99. It's a really sweet beaded purse in excellent condition. It doesn't have a mark. I feel like the rim is probably German silver, and maybe I just haven't found the mark yet. It's a very light clasp, so makes me think that it's sterling or near sterling. Not sure about that. But these aren't selling as well as they have or had 25 years ago. But it should still bring about $50, possibly more on Etsy. And it does on this side have these velvet, it's a velvet, I guess they're leaves, velvet decoration. I might try to get the bend out of that one because it's kind of attractive. It may have been added after the fact and it might be easy to remove. I'll have to see about that. So that I thought was a great find for Salvation Army. And let me see. What else is from, I think that's it for Salvation Army. And then, let's see, the antique mall was called the Stonehouse Antiques, and it's in Chester, Vermont, which is about 45 minutes from Manchester. But we decided to head on over there and take a look. And here are the things that I found there. So at the antique shop, I picked up this. This is the panel from a sewing machine. So the company was called Standard. And I just thought that was sort of an interesting sign that someone might like to have. And I'm going to show you when I find wood like this that's kind of dried up and in need of a little attention, I will use my wood salve, which I shared the recipe for on my website, so I'll link to that. And just to give you an idea of what it can do for wood. So there it is, kind of dried out, and I'm going to put it up here in this corner. So you rub it on. You can let it sit for a little while. Let it soak it up, and then buff it out. You're just removing any of the excess wax and buffing it to a really nice satin finish. Yeah, so I have this, I use this almost every day. You can use it on wood, you can use it on painted wood, you can use it on metal, you can use it on plastic, and you can use it on your hands too. I have people who swear by it, especially in the winter when your skin tends to get really dry. Okay, also from the antique shop, I picked up this little booklet. It's a floral record, so it has some printed information. in the front. But then in the back, you would draw a picture of a flower that you're about to plant or that you've already planted, and you're cataloging it and taking notes about it here on the other side. So not like super spectacular drawings or anything, but very interesting, I think. And it dates to, the dates on here are, looks like 1901. There's 1901 right there. And no picture on that page, but some writing. Now here is a lily, drawing of a lily. So I think historically this is very interesting for someone. Also, it could be used if you're a scrapbooker or a junk journaler or an artist. You might want to use some of these pages in that. So I paid $2 for it, and I think it's worth, on Etsy, where I sell a lot of items like this, I would price it at about $18 to $20 for that piece. And then I picked up, I think this is like, would you melt metal in there and then pour it into a mold? That's what I feel like that is. So a hand wrought tool, very cool twisted handle. This was $5, and this was quite rusty when I picked it up. It was $5, and so I scrubbed it with a metal brush, which, hang on, I'll show you. This is a metal brush that I use. I think you can get 3 of these for $1.25 at the dollar store. I think that's where I got them. And they're different grades of brush. So some are really fine and some are not so fine. This is not so fine. So the first step when I come across something that's metal that's rusty is I scrub the rust off, as much of the rust as I can. Not all of it came off. There's some up there, some on the back, but you give it a good scrub. You can also use some steel wool if you don't have the wire brush, and then rinse it off and dry it. And then I put some of my wood salve on it to bring out the color of the piece and to protect it from further rusting. So I think this will be about $25 for that piece. And then here is a trivet, an iron trivet, a sad iron trivet. This is an antique one, and I can tell that because it has, I think this is called a gate. It's a little piece of metal hanging off the side like that. So your newer trivets don't have that. And it was $4, and it's worth about $25. Now, I use these on my junk angels. This is sort of the torso. So picture a head right here, some wings out here, and a dowel to put it in the ground if you want to. And my junk angels sell anywhere from, well, it depends on the size, but a medium to a large would be $40 to $80, something like that. So when I see these for a reasonable amount, I pick them up. So this was also really rusty, and I went through the same process with it, with the wire brush and the wood salve. So I do have an article on my website about how to clean and care for rusty metal, and you can find all of the information there. Okay, so the last 2 things that I picked up at the antique shop are, well, first of all, I just could not pass these little roller skates up, little antique doll roller skates for $2. And I think they should sell for about $15 to $20 on Etsy. And I don't tend to want to list items for less than $25 or $30, but when it's this small and completely unbreakable and unique and interesting, I will pick the item up. And so then last item is this, oh my gosh, it's this little doll suitcase, red plaid, I thought it was perfect for display. I was thinking of hankies, or at Christmas time, something, maybe Christmas decorations in there. What else could you put? Maybe perfume, bottles of perfume. It was $5. If I were to sell it separately, I would probably put $25 on that. I think that's really cute. It's a vinyl. It's not like leather or anything, but very cute. So last thing I was going to do was to show you the 3 things that I sold yesterday on Etsy. Before I do that, I do want to mention that I have an article about bottles on my old antique bottles on my website, along with how to clean them. So I'll link to those down below. All right, so the 3 things that I sold are, first of all, these really charming, sweet little butter pats. They were made by Johnson Brothers. That is not very clear. There's the mark, Johnson Brothers. So I picked up these 4 for $1 at a Salvation Army in the Pittsburgh area, and I got 3 sets. And so I listed them in sets of 4. So I have 3 of these sets. So I sold this one, and there are 2 left in my Etsy shop, which is also linked down below, along with an article all about butter pats. They're just cute as can be. Very sweet pink floral pattern. So that sold yesterday. They sold for $31.97. And then this pair of antique wooden spoons, really nice shape. These I treated with some of the wood salve, and they sold for $24 for the pair. And then the last thing is this really sweet little ironstone dish. It's made by Alfred Meekin. It was made by Alfred Meekin, Staffordshire, England, and it sold for, well, it was listed for $16.97, and they used a 15% off coupon. And so that brought it down to something like $14.42 for the sweet little dish. So I hope that helps you, gives you some ideas of things that you can sell on eBay, or Etsy, excuse me, sell on Etsy. I do sell quite a lot of smaller pieces of ironstone, and I have an article all about selling ironstone on Etsy, and I have an article all about ironstone, and a price guide, and how to clean and care for ironstone. So I'll link to some of those down below. Thanks for joining me as I share all of these vintage and antique finds from last weekend in Manchester, Vermont. And as always, happy hunting.